Hey, Primo.
2 nights in a row you get me.
We're back again. Yes, right?
Nobody can figure out this panelist thing, huh? It's like you fill the form out with autofill and it takes 10 seconds. Well, it really seems to be a struggle
I see.
for other folks.
Yakov, look, you made it.
Yako figured it out.
Yes.
You're on mute, I think.
You're muted, Yakov. We
No,
can't hear you.
I saw that, Primo, you were on. I said I must be doing something wrong. So I went into my email and I found always such a huge group of participants.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised. Yeah, that's what I was saying to Mia, was that people must be having a hard time figuring out how to register for
Yeah,
Zoom.
no, but I pre-registered everyone and resent the link this morning.
So Mia, you have the ability to if somebody goes on the regular part of the group, you can make them a panelist. You could sort of upgrade them.
Yeah. Right. I think we are panelists.
Yeah,
I'm saying
panelists.
if somebody clicks the link, not as a panelist, because they can't figure out how to do it, you could just make them a panelist afterwards. You can make a participant a panelist. If somebody clicks the regular link, you see their name on the side. You have an option there to upgrade them to panelist. They're having issues getting on.
Yeah, no, but all of you guys are registered as panelists, so you're good to go.
Right, but Yakov is saying for other folks who are not panelists or community.
Okay. Oh, okay, gotcha.
I'm saying with people that can't figure out how to do it. If somebody, I just now clicked on the wrong link. Me, you think I read every email that I get from Community Board 9?
Yeah.
I looked at the last email, Zoom executive meeting, and I clicked the link.
Understood.
Fred, that wasn't personal. All your emails I read. Fred, can I ask you what's that behind you? Is that a window?
Well, hold on, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a gold record, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not even. That's a mirror. So it's a mirror behind me, and it's actually pointing at the wall behind me over there.
Makes a lot of sense when I describe it. So we're both wrong. The esteemed Melanie Lewis. Good to see you.
Hey, Melanie.
I think you're on mute, Melanie, if you're trying to talk to us.
Can't hear you. Yeah, we can see you talking, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. You're not on mute. It's strange though. Maybe there's something wrong with your headphones. Yeah, we still can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh, you can't? Don't you raise your voice at us. Oh, she dropped off?
Yeah.
I'll try and come back in. Let's see.
So Fred, can we undo this Zoom change?
Say that again?
Can we undo the changes we've made to Zoom?
You're on a recorded line. Reminding you all.
We continue to evaluate. The issue, the challenge becomes this. This way has, login issues aside, this way tends to be a little bit more controlled. We have, we're able to see most of the people, and we can promote people as necessary. So there's definitely a conversation we're having about, because I understand there are definitely some issues in terms of the confusion between logging in and becoming a panelist. I know that the team has been basically pre-registering everyone. We need to just figure out the communication plan so that way you get one email that says, listen, guess what? This is all the link that you need to do is click on this and you're in automatically. I haven't, so from the participant side, from residents and community members, what's the challenge? Have they not been able to get in? or what's the challenge there?
I mean, obviously we're seeing that there's 5 of us here at 7:05 for what is a meeting.
There's eight of us.
Oh, I see, because we can't see the other people. So yeah, I mean, because we can't see the non-panelists. So yes, the participants, the attendees, we have, it's just Mia, twice. So there are only 5 of us.
I apologize.
And how am I there twice? I logged it as from the
I
board.
don't know why. But yeah,
Could be somebody went in as Mia
Yeah.
Hilton. It's also possible.
there's a,
Yeah, you're showing up twice in the attendees.
there's a sleeper.
Yeah, I registered, but I logged in through the BKO9-1 as through the main account. I didn't log in as myself.
There's
But-
somebody else gonna be logged in as Mia Hilton.
It's possible.
Or name
you also,
themselves.
you could also just
This
kick
is-
those 2 people out.
Actually, it's me. I'm
Yeah.
logged in as Mia Hilton.
It's one.
Oh, there goes that mystery.
But
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Yes, Melanie, I
Primo.
just heard you.
Okay, my goodness. And thank you, Primo. And Yakov, you was definitely talking about me, about one of those people that couldn't get in because I didn't click on the panelist link. And definitely when you can't see, I guess like for the other link where it says,
Can
well,
you
anyway,
see
Primo
me?
was right. Long story short.
Hello?
oh, wow.
Can anybody see me?
We can hear you.
Mia.
We can hear you. And it
Mia,
is.
who's logged in as Mia Hilton with the interesting cover?
Teresa, is that you?
Really?
She was at our last meeting. She asked. a bunch of
Yeah,
questions.
no, but she wasn't registered as a panelist.
I don't remember what her name was. You should unmute.
Mia, are you on twice?
No, I'm not.
No.
Wait, but you
Who's
should
the
No,
second
Teresa,
Mia
is it-
Hilton?
so that she can,
Teresa, is that you?
she's muted.
She's muted now. I thought I heard her before. Oh,
Oh, she's gone now.
Okay, so something's up. So an attendee obviously joined and renamed themselves as Mia Hilton. I can't be logged in as myself. I'm logged in through the
Right.
BKO9-1.
Yeah, I mean that's
right.
that's
That avatar looked like Teresa.
That was
Westerdahl.
Teresa Westerdahl.
Yes, that was Teresa Westerdahl. Yes, I needed the last name. That was definitely her. I don't know why she's logged in.
I don't know why she's impersonating a board employee in the meeting.
I mean, I assume it's a mistake, but
Is it possible she's in the board office?
Let me check, Yakov.
that's interesting. That is a possibility. That's an interesting idea.
Are you in the board office, Mia?
No, I'm sitting at my dining room table.
Oh, so you were serious. You're gonna check.
Yeah. but to go back to the, obviously we continue to experience problems with people getting in. And then I think, what I was trying to raise at the last meeting is that people don't feel like included because they can't see all of the other participants in the meeting.
Primo,
Right.
my only issue is I think I like to have access to the chat box.
Yeah, I agree.
Domino, how you doing?
And I know that the chat gets wild and like can be annoying sometimes, but I think like that's democracy.
Hey, Zelig. Thank God.
Okay, I see 710. I do see 1, 2, 3, 4 board members, executive committee members. So I do see a quorum. Rather than continue to postpone, I think we are going to start the meeting right now. Actually, Mia, as we have you, is it possible, would you be able to take minutes for this meeting?
Yes, just give me 1 moment. I'm just trying to get some tech things squared away behind the scenes.
That's fine.
Thank you. But I hear you guys. You guys can start.
Okay. All right. So we're going to call the meeting to order. The time is now 7:10. I want to welcome everyone to the Executive Committee for October 2021 for Community Board 9. I think we're all family, but I'll introduce myself again. My name is Fred Baptiste, Chair of CB9. I want to thank all the chairs. I want to thank, if there are any attendees present, I want to thank you for your attendance as well. We are going to jump right in to the agenda. Hold on, pardon me 1 second while I bring that up, actually. Yep, I had my agenda. I'm trying to find it right now. apologies. Lost it for a second there. Okay, so item number 2 would normally be public commentary. I'm trying to see how many attendees we have. I see two Mia Hiltons right now. I do see one of them with their hand raised. All right, so we're going into our public commentary period. Mia, if you would recognize Mia Hilton, let's promote them.
Yeah, definitely. It's only giving me the option to promote this person, the panelist, and not just give them speaking privileges. Hold on one sec. Let me see if I can.
That's fine.
Hello?
Yes, hello, we can hear you.
I just
Yeah,
used
if
a
the-
link that Christian LeBeau sent me so I could speak about the Environmental Protection Committee. I don't know, it's very odd that, this is Teresa Westerdahl, by the way. So I'm the co-chair. I know Christian sent everybody an email that I'm gonna speak, and I logged in on my daughter's iPad with the link he sent. She helped me. And now I'm in with, I want to see my face and name, and I don't understand why it's not working.
Okay,
And why it
I'm
says,
not
I
sure.
can see sometimes that it says Mia, but I really don't know what to do.
You should be
Okay,
able to
are you
press
able to, yeah,
start.
can you
I can
enable
see
your camera?
I could see 5 people. And I don't
Okay,
know.
Ms. Westerdahl, what I'm gonna do is just rename you, and then you can just make your statement. How about that?
Well, I can wait till it's the time. I want to do everything right. He sent me all these parliamentary procedure for meetings. I
Well-
have the bylaws. I have a
Understood.
statement. I
Right,
just
right.
want
I
to
think
do the
Ms.
right thing,
Westerdahl
and
is, she's not,
I don't know why it's messed up. I'm sorry.
no, that's understood. So actually, Ms. Westerdahl
you
is here
see me?
representing we can see your avatar. So we see the,
I want my
gas mask.
camera on though. That's why I used her. That's why I'm on her
Well, Ms.
computer.
Westerdahl, we can't troubleshoot your computer
But you
from,
should be
from the
able,
inside the meeting.
you
would
should
just
be
have
able to tap on your screen, and you
All
should
right.
see at the bottom left, there should be an icon that says mute. To the right of that, there should be an icon that says start video.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any of that.
Okay,
Can you click on the 3 dots next to your own name on your square?
No, I don't see myself. It doesn't show me at all.
Are you on it? You're on the Zoom app, I'm assuming. Sometimes if
Yeah,
you
I'm on the Zoom app on the iPad.
if you swipe to the right or the left, it'll show you different video options.
So I'm really sorry. I just wanted to,
Okay.
that's
maybe
fine. Listen,
maybe I should try it on my phone. But I want it to be official and nice, honestly. Okay, I'm gonna leave and then try and log in again, okay? On my phone with the
That's
link?
fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. All right. Well, listen. So I think with Ms. Westerdahl being the only other attendee, so Mia, when you see her come back in, she's representing the Environmental Protection Committee on behalf of Christian LeBeau. So you can promote her to panelist, and she'll provide a report to that committee when she's on. Seeing as yeah, I'm not sure what it is. It looks like whatever link she has for some reason has her name on. I'm not sure. But in any instance, so just promote her. As we do not have any other attendees, otherwise, I think we are going to go right into the next item for committee check-ins. So at this time, we will have the committee chair's report. Yakov, I think, did you want to present first?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and all the
Absolutely.
fellow board members. And I want to go, I'll be very brief. We had a meeting, our first monthly meeting. Unfortunately, we did not have quorum. We tried very hard. We had confirmations from committee members that they're going to come, and from community members. And there was still some absentees, and as a result, we don't have quorum. So I asked Fred, you and Mia should have a conversation how to resolve this. There's nothing more we could do if we have people tell us they're coming and they don't come. And I don't know what more we could do to ensure quorum, but it was upsetting to me that we didn't have at the first meeting. 3 liquor license applications. Two of them, you know, we had no issues and no complications, just pretty standard. One of the applications was a laundromat bar. There was a lot of conversation in the committee as is there going to be a security personnel checking all people that enter the laundromat to make sure they're over 18. He said there was going to be, but there was a question how many staff he's going to have. I had some questions about the health department and whether or not how you have a restaurant or a bar and a laundromat in one location. There were some other questions about safety, operating machinery under the influence of alcohol or not. And I'm just going to bring it to the full board, summarize our conversation to them, and give the owner an opportunity to make his case. And I reached out privately to the liquor authority, and basically what I would suggest to the board is that we articulate our concerns within our letter to them, not take a position whether to support or not to support, but just say these are our concerns. This is why, and we want you to take a good look to make sure that none of these things are an issue, and let them decide on a state level, through their board, through their hearings, whatever it is, whether or not it makes sense. And I think Mia was going to look into some other laundromat bars in Brooklyn, and when she does that, I will include that in my summary to the full board.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the Public Safety Chair?
No question. I mean, Jakob, where's the laundromat bar? I'm intrigued.
It's Roger. It's not open yet, but it's going to be in Rogers between Montgomery and Crown.
Got it. Understood. And then just one more note is that, like, during our last meeting, I think you had to go before we did this, but I'm not sure. There was all the questions about the 500-foot rule, not for.
So I don't know if you've been reading my emails. The 500-foot rule only applies to hard liquor in a restaurant, or if you're like a liquor store or grocery that's selling liquor to go. The 500 rule will not apply here. It has nothing to do with this establishment. It's a beer, wine, and cider license.
Got it. That's the same establishment that we were talking about, right?
Right. So I know there were also a lot of allegations that meetings that never happen and all this,
Nobody even brought that up. We were just talking.
Okay. I'm just saying that there's no such thing. We did discuss the 500-foot rule and the 200-foot rule, and we read from the state's website, and Mia sent an email out the next day with those rules, attached as a document. But the 500-foot rule or the 200-foot rule does not apply in this establishment. It's not applicable. It's not relevant.
Yep. Just wanted to double check that it was the same place. I wasn't sure if the laundromat was the same place that we were talking about during.
If they were selling alcohol to go, then there would be there would be potential for the rule to apply. But they're not selling. It's an in-house restaurant. Unless they sell liquor, there's no 500-foot rule.
Thanks for clarifying. I do read all the emails, Jakob.
Yeah. There is an issue. There is an issue of children in the laundromats.
Yes.
There is a concern with children in the laundromats. So.
Yes, that's if you don't mind, I wanted to ask the question. Yeah, there's normally a family in the laundry room, in the laundromat, which means that there's mothers with strollers, there's mother with toddlers running around and everything. Why would somebody want to serve alcohol in a laundromat?
So we asked that question. I actually quoted from the state law as well, that if you want to take a child into a establishment that has alcohol, you have to be accompanied by an adult. So are they going to have adults present on the way in? Are they going to, are you going to, he said they're not going to allow any children and not accompanied by a parent or by an adult. He also said that the bar area, they're not going to let children sit at the bar area, but we asked him, so who's going to enforce to make sure alcohol doesn't go from the bar area to the laundromat? He's claiming to have 2 staff. So those were some of our concerns. If you're going to have 70 people in this establishment, you have a bar area and a laundromat, and children either accompanied by adults or not, in the laundromat area, it's going to be very hard to keep it separated. And so we have those concerns, Carmen, and I think the owner will have an opportunity to make his case again to the full board. But it's my recommendation that we put all the concerns in writing, and let the liquor authority do their work, investigate. I mean, I'm not, I don't, I don't know that we have the ability to make that call.
Okay. I mean, I'm all down for the economic development, as people argue the fact that these businesses are bringing, hiring from the community, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we kind of get into the ridiculous. And
Right.
now, if I want to drink, I'm just going to go to the laundromat and sit up at the laundromat and drink. I mean, it's like, what's going to be next? After the laundromat, what's going to be next? The backyard at the daycare center?
So Carmen, I agree with you, and I'm uncomfortable with it, but I think that if we just do a flat out no, either the SLA is going to agree with us or they're not going to agree with us. If we articulate clearly what our concerns are, there's a greater chance they'll take a closer look. And I understand if there is a hearing, I could stay in touch with the SLA, and have them give us the heads up. And Mia could send it out to the full board or into the community. If anybody has any objections, they can make it directly to the liquor authority when they have their hearing.
Thank you.
There was
Okay,
also the other restaurant that's going to open on Northland Avenue. There was a concern in terms of the 500-foot rule as it is close to a church. That was Catch Me.
Yeah, but that, again, the same thing would apply in that restaurant. That restaurant is serving wine, beer, and cider. They're not. In fact, that restaurant was denied their original liquor license because they were serving liquor. So they sent it back. They reapplied under a beer, wine, and cider license because they're too close. I think they're within 200 feet. So they reapplied. And if you're applying for a beer, wine, and cider, the 200-foot rule will not apply. So,
Because they are 2 doors down from a storefront church.
I know, but you said the 200-foot rule. The law is the law.
Right, the 200-foot rule kicks in when there's mostly when there's a hard liquor that's involved. Wine, beer, and cider usually, it doesn't trigger that. But when there's hard liquor involved as part of the application, that's when those are invoked.
And what was the
Okay.
name of that one? Is that Sweet Catch or is that something else?
No, that one was Zummy, right?
I believe so. Mia,
It's Sweet Catch. It's Sweet Catch.
The Sweet Catch appeared at the September meeting, and they're directly down the block from Zanley, which appeared at this past October public safety meeting, and they're at the corner of Hawthorne and Nostrand.
which was the establishment that came back a second time?
That's Zamni is the business that came. This is their second appearance. They missed their liquor license by 10 feet.
That's what I'm
Right,
trying
so
to.
so we're talking. So Fred is correct. We're
So
talking
yeah,
about.
Zamni is the business that just appeared in October after applying for a full liquor license last year, and they missed it by 10 feet.
So my point earlier was that Sweet Catch has applied for a liquor license and am I wrong?
They're further down the block, but I believe that they're further down the block and they're closer to a church that is in a mixed-use building.
Yes. And so
No, but a mixed-use
That
building.
was the difference.
They're close to a church as a storefront church. And as I explained at the community board meeting, storefront churches are not considered religious institution because they are mixed-use buildings. And I
Correct.
purposely drove by, and there is a storefront church, not an actual church.
Well, are they selling hard alcohol? Are they selling
Yeah.
liquor?
yes.
So when did they appeared in the full board meeting, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So that was already voted on, correct?
Well, no,
Correct.
didn't we send it back to committee?
No, that one didn't get sent back.
Really?
No,
No,
it was
that
just to
vote-
confirm the.
I think
Yeah, the stipulation was, we approved it with the stipulation that we approved of it as long as it was in compliance with the 200 and 500-foot rules. So it's in compliance with those rules because I think, and the question came up because it's down the block from St. Gabriel's Church, but because the storefront is on Nostrand and St. Gabriel's is on Hawthorne, the rule doesn't apply. It's on either side on the same street.
SLA is required by law to make sure sure that they're not in within the 200 feet. So they're going to do that. They always do that. Like we've had establishments that were denied because this is the one thing they always do. They compare the distance from churches and schools. It's a law. It requires them, it binds them, it makes them do that.
Right. And that's what happened with Zandy, where
Right.
we approved it, but they did go behind the check and it said they were 10 feet. They were 10 feet too close. Okay. All right. So with that, so Yakov, I just want to understand. So do you want for the board to consider these applications at the full board, or do you want your committee to have another shot at it in the next
No,
month?
I don't think it's fair to punish these establishments that came and presented. The board could decide to send it back, but my recommendation is for sure on those two that were fairly straightforward. We should vote, we should vote on it. And even the third one, what are we going to gain by sending it back to committee? I don't see. I mean, if the establishment came unprepared, or they didn't show up, or that there was some issue that we needed to send it back to committee, then I would send it back. But here they came, they prepared, and our board members or community members didn't come forward and do their job and show up to the meeting. I don't think we should punish these establishments. It's not their fault. I think they did their part.
All right.
We should vote
just as a thought. Okay. And just as a thought, I agree with the two that were not objectionable. Those should probably come forward. The only thing I would offer with the third one is if there are stipulations and negotiations that should happen or could happen to make this something more palatable to the board, that should probably happen back in the committee, because we won't really have time to go through it, with the committee, with the board of 45 trying to all of a sudden negotiate that. So that might be worth
we should negotiate. I don't think we should negotiate. I think they put in their application already. I think we should write our conditions to the SLA, and that's it. They're not going to resubmit their application. They submitted their application. They're not going to resubmit it.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if there are stipulations, if you have those stipulations that you'd like to put up front, let's do that. If you think your committee needs to negotiate it.
Fred, I'm not suggesting stipulations, suggesting we articulate our concerns in full in our letter and say they came before us. This is our concerns. List them all and let the SLA do their job.
Very well. All right.
I would agree with that, Yaakov. That seems perfectly reasonable to me. I think the only thing to note is that a lot of people were not happy at the last thing. And I know I just want to say we should address those concerns and say we wrote all of our concerns and sent it to the state liquor authority, just so people know that we're doing our due diligence and that their voice.
Of course.
So that would be my recommendation, but I agree with your course of action.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you very much, Rabbi Berman.
Thank you.
All right, going around in no particular order. Actually, just because you spoke last, Primo, what do you have for youth services?
Yeah, hello. We had our first youth services committee meeting last night. I think, like Yaakov, we had lower attendance than we're accustomed to. To be frank, I think that some of that comes from the late start that we've had as a community board, and we usually start. Sorry, my dog is squeak toy. We usually have our meetings on the first Mondays of the month, and that just wasn't possible because we didn't even send out an invite until the second Tuesday or something like that. And so just noting that, for the future, and maybe something that's being experienced across the community board committees. I'd say there's also a little bit of a lack of clarity about whether applicants need to reapply for the committee every year, or whether I can reappoint people from the committee from previous years, because the first invite only went out to new applicants. And then I was like, can we add everybody who clearly still wants to be a part of that? Calling that out too, just so other people kind of keep a line of sight to it. But ultimately, I think we had about 9 people join us, although some people joined us late. And we started planning for the year. I think with COVID being less of a thing, we're still very much in a pandemic, but we want to return to some semblance of normalcy. And so are aiming towards hosting our Youth Jobs Expo, which has been a thing that we've had to parlay over the last year and a half. And so we're aiming to do that in late January or early February, which I think is Regents Week, where students are more available than they would be otherwise. And so we are beginning to build towards that. Our meetings will happen on the, Mia, correct me if I'm wrong, second Mondays of the month moving forward. If anybody wants to join, they're more than welcome to. We have some great new additions as well as some returners from the past. And we're looking forward to a strong year. I'd say, like, our question is going to be about budget, as always, and we'd like to get some funds for our youth expo squared away. I know Dante wants us to send them, and Amy Pinkerton always says send out a template, and I have to agree with her. Send out a template, and I will happily fill it out. But I'll also send over something if there is no template. So just let me know what the deadline is for that, Mia/Fred.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I will address some of the comments you brought up. Are there any questions for the Youth Services Chair? Okay, all right, seeing none. I'm noticing a common thread with regards to attendance. I think you kind of hit the point as well. I think that we've had a little bit of a rough start with respect to the meeting schedule. Hopefully this irons out now that we've had the first month. By November, I think we should hopefully be able to get more into a groove. Although I'll probably caution this. November and December tend to be terrible months with regards to respect to scheduling because of holidays. So it's really going to be about communication. Make sure you're communicating with your committees, identifying if there are any days switches, so that way people have enough notice to make sure that they can adjust schedules as necessary. So with respect to November and December, I would tell you, keep an eye out right now, see what days you're scheduled for, and let's just be cognizant that the holidays are going to move a few of the dates. I think we're already moving the general board meeting for November, and I believe it happens in December as well because of the holiday season and the end of the year. So just I would just say keep an eye on that. With regards to budget, one of the things that we're looking at is we are trying to kickstart, see if we can get some fundraising apparatus that is in place. One of the things is I think that the board does have some money to support some activities, but because of the way city rules go with regards to procurement, there are some things that the board just can't pay for. And I think that knocks out a significant chunk of what the respective committees would probably want to do. So what we're looking at is actually creating a fundraising apparatus that will be able to get those from private entities. People can make contributions to that and hopefully be able to support these things. But we're going to work with the district office with Dante in terms of getting that template together. I would encourage all committees to start dreaming and identifying those things and putting dollar signs next to them, so that way we can aggressively go and see if we can find people to underwrite certain lines on your budget requests. All right, and the last point with respect to applicants or members for your committees, per the bylaws, there are two ways you get on committees. First, you're initially appointed by the chair when we establish the committees. The second, each chair is actually empowered to add people to their committees. The only part of that process is we ask you to have whatever the prospective member is, have them submit an application to the board. Let the board office know that you would like to add them to your committee, and they'll be added on. The only caution with that is just make sure that these people who are dedicated, because obviously the more you have on your committee, it raises your quorum, and it increases the risk in terms of not being able to meet that depending on how many you have. But if it's a good person you think they're going to add and you know that they're going to attend, absolutely, as chairs, you are empowered to do that. Also, because we've heard it, I'm going to be working with the district office as well. We need to nip the attendance issues in the bud. We understand rough start and everything like that, but these committees only work when people honor the commitments and show up and make sure that they're at the meetings. We owe it to, out of respect to all the other members of the committees, out of respect to the constituents who come with their issues and their grievances. So we need to make sure that that's what happens. One of the things we did as a board, we used to have members that used to have to be on 2 and 3 committees. We said that's crazy. Everybody has a life. They're trying to do things. So we said, listen, it's mandated that you are in 1. So we're just asking everybody to respect that you show up for the 1 committee meeting every month, in addition to the board meetings. All right. Primo, did I answer all your questions, or you're good?
Excuse me, Fred, it's Warren.
Yes, Warren.
Hi, I just wanted to point out that in terms of Primo's excellent past events, He's always been funded through private donors. So there's no reason why that not continues.
Yeah, huge shout out to Warren and other members of the board. You know, Fred, Mia, literally like other members of the board have thrown in to make sure that we can host events. I think now that we're returning to in person, that lift will be a little bit higher for an event like the Jobs Expo, and so I don't want to have to ask for that from our generous donors.
No, just work with us, Primo.
I'll always work with you, Warren. Don't worry. I'll always be working with you. I'll always let you know what I need. I just want to make sure that it has to come less out of your pocket and more out of the general funds pocket.
Yeah, we're working on that.
And my pockets agree with that statement. Yes.
Anyway, Primo, you do a terrific job. Your events are terrific, and we'll keep working on them. That's all.
Thank you, Warren. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
May I ask a question?
Who's this?
And this is Carmen. And Warren, you probably be best equipped to answer this question. But in listening to Primo's wishes to put together youth program, etc., wouldn't the Friends of CB9 be able to help his committee submit requests for discretionary funding when that time comes for these programs, for these youth programs?
Correct.
Because I think that's what needs to happen. It's very tricky to try to use CB9's funding to do giveaways and buy stuff that's not approved by the controller's office, and et cetera, et cetera. But if you have programs that you plan to have throughout the year, all you have to do is submit a request to the council people. Well, before it used to be Lori and Matthew Eugene and Alika, but there's going to be a whole new set of council members, Rita Joseph, Krista Hudson, and Darlene Mealy, who's actually coming back, that are part of CB9. Their district is part of CB9. So maybe what Primo needs to do is to sit down with Warren, who has kind of a background knowledge on that, and put together some kind of application. I think they start doing it in January or something like that. They come out with those applications, and you can just create a budget for your programs and submit a request for those fundings.
Correct. Fred, do you mind if I answer?
Yeah, I mean, actually, that is definitely a conversation that we've been having. I think in terms of one of the first priorities we wanted to do is shore up the board's infrastructure to make sure things were more or less where they need to be, where the committees are functioning. But I think this is the next, exactly what you're saying, that's the next level in terms of making sure that we're tapping into those funding mechanisms between discretionary funding, making sure that as a board, we're tapping private entities as well through Friends of CB9 as appropriate as well, in terms of being able to fundraise for that. I think there are a lot of people, there's a lot of goodwill. I think, the youth forum is something that you'd have a lot of people who you're willing to donate towards that. We had our wellness fair that just happened, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. People would be willing to underwrite line items for that or donate towards that. So now we're just at that stage where, yeah, that's the next push. So absolutely, we're on track with that. Those are conversations we're having, and we're looking towards that. But thank you for the comment with respect to January. So we'll make sure that we're in line and we're preparing things to make sure that we're in those conversations when money's being handed out. We are there with our documentation ready to ask for funding for programs.
Awesome.
Warren, if there's anything I missed, please.
I just want to piggyback on that. Basically, we are not up to speed for that level. We just found it easier because of the amounts that's required to privately fund. And we'll work on it. That's what it amounts to. One of the things we have to do is get a fundraising apparatus in sync with what's going on. And Carmen, I agree totally. But our view has been that we don't want anything to suffer because of lack of funds. So basically, we've been fulfilling that privately. And this is something we're gonna work with Dexter on to get that moving. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Last thing I'll mention, because I forgot to mention this. Thank you, first of all, for everyone's willingness to support the committee and the kids ultimately. We're looking for a space. What we realized during the course of our conversation is that we could do a thing like Major Commodore Barry, whatever it's called, Major Owens Community Center, but there is a vaccine requirement for lots of spaces, and that we cannot enter those spaces with the majority of our students, because unfortunately, most students are not vaccinated. So that is something that we noted.
Primo, why is that?
Why are they not vaccinated?
No, in other words, so
Well,
you're
well,
talking
actually,
about
what-
teenagers?
Yeah, actually, if I could hold off, only because I want to make sure we're moving the agenda.
Sorry.
But those are logistical items that we can definitely take offline, and we can discuss where your challenges are. We can start trying to address them.
Just saying, if you know of a good space, send it over to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Primo. Let me see. I see the Chair of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, Mr. Almanor.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Mr. Chair, but before you go, I noticed that Miss Lewis, she had her hand up for a while and
Yes,
she was not acknowledged.
And I apologize for that. Ms. Lewis, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just lowered that hand, but I appreciate you so much for acknowledging. I wanted to just ask a question in terms of, at the end of the year, I know there's a set of funds that we found ourselves attempting to try to still spend. Are those monies something that can also be allocated for functions and events such as what Primo was looking to potentially gain funds for as well? And
I'm
forgive me,
here.
I don't recall the name of it right now.
No, it's perfectly fine. So this is actually something I was going to say in the DM's report. So last year we were in the situation of trying to spend the money in the board budget. Now this year, you're not going to see the same type of expenditures, especially large expenditures like that, due to the fact that we now have a full-time district manager on payroll.
Got it. Forgive me. I do recall you did put that in an email. Now that I hear you saying that, I kind of do remember you saying that, or I read it somewhere. So thank you for clarifying that.
No problem. And it's a phenomenal question. I don't want to discourage any of the committees from coming up with plans. You know, if we have to move money around our operating budget to accommodate, we can do that. But, you know, having a plan and at least giving me due diligence time to be able to do that would be much appreciated.
Okay. But I still want to put out the caveat. There are limitations on how we can spend too. So on the one hand, I mean, I think the district office has already made the commitment that, you know, wherever they can, they'll support, but also make sure I'm setting expectations as well in terms of there are just things that they might not be able to support with. Right. But absolutely for your committees, dream big. Let's have the conversation and we see where we go from there. Okay. All right. Mr. Albanor.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Yes. Good evening.
Thank you to allow me the opportunity to speak in this executive board. Unfortunately, I didn't get back. Our committee met last Thursday, so I did not get back the minutes. So hopefully we'll get it very shortly so we could share with everyone. So we're able to start the structure for the committee. And then we cover all of that, and we got volunteer liaison for the various institutional, that this committee comes in contact with. We had two presentations scheduled, one from the Major Owens Wellness Center and the Botanical Garden Center. The Botanical Garden Center called us, let us know a few days ahead. They could not do it. They want to come next month. Nobody from the Major Owens Wellness Center showed up, nor did they let us know why. So I don't know what I would like to suggest. Maybe we'd like to invite them to do their presentation at the general board meeting. So basically that's what we cover. We started to develop a plan to inventory of community garden and green spaces. So and we started to talk about a long-term project for June, which we will talk some more. This is an idea I presented the last time. So basically, that's what we covered in the last meeting. So unless there are any question, I do have a question regarding the fundraising. What kind of fundraising activities the community board allowed to do?
Very.
My report.
Who was that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, with respect to the fundraising the board is able to do, actually, I'm not sure. But that's where the question is, and that's where we kind of need to define in terms of, can the board do the fundraising itself, or is that something that Friends of CV9 would have to do on behalf of the board? Because any monies that come into the board coffers like that would become city monies, and it falls under the same issue. So Dante or Mia, if you have additional commentary or clarity, if you can provide more clarity, but that would be my question. I'd want to be careful with that. But it's like, as we're talking about the fundraising plan, we'd be talking about how that gets done. And it really might be a matter of we get together as a group to figure out what the appropriate fundraising mechanisms in terms of activities. Dante, I'm sorry, I cut you off a couple of times.
No, yeah, that was perfect. And, depending on what it is that you're trying to buy, obviously there's constraints because, it's government money, it's public tax dollars coming from the board office. I have no problem, either scheduling a call with you or sitting through the committee and kind of hashing out, okay, these are things that you guys can that we can actually purchase with board office money. And then the other things that, we aren't able to purchase just due to the laws and just the fiscal constraints, as you guys start to meet in committee, one thing that I have learned quickly is that, even though we're in a pandemic, there's a lot of organizations out there that will give stuff for free. So maybe it's just us putting our heads together, having some discussions, and then, maybe it might not cost us as much. So, once your committee, it kind of narrows down exactly what you're looking for, we'll sit through it. I'll sit through it with you and your committee, and we'll discuss what can and cannot be bought.
Hey, it's Warren. I want to add to this. In terms of private fundraising, the committee, one thing is what the board can buy. The other part is what you can do. And don't rely on the board to raise funds because we're a government agency. If you're an individual committee, and I've been in this position many times, you go out and you raise funds. And we have a vehicle with a 501c that is completely separate from CV9 to take these funds and reallocate them. So for committee chairs, don't sit back and say, oh, where can I get money? Sit back and say, how can I raise money? And that's the difference. Thank you.
So ask not what your executive committee can do for you. Ask what you can.
You do look like Kennedy.
All right. Okay, but seriously though, thank you very much for the report. Are there any questions for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Teresa, I know you've been sitting there patiently. If you would like, you can give your report for on behalf of environmental protection.
Okay, I'll just read what Christian LeBeau sent to me, as well as add in a few of my own points. CB9's Environmental Protection Committee held our first meeting in the 2021 fiscal year to discuss our collective vision for our community, assign roles, and agree to shared meeting norms. Matt Burton graciously agreed to serve as note taker, Martina Victoria as backup note taker, and Teresa Westerdahl, myself. I'm going to be the vice chair. Nice to meet you all. I'm looking forward to serving. The committee agreed to a series of meeting norms, including the importance of being respectful to attendees during meetings. In terms of next steps, the chair will revert next month with a concise vision statement for members to consider and provide input, and we will identify 3 to 4 actions or activities to undertake in the next 7 months. We identified some immediate issues and discussed like long-term things, plans that we have. One of the immediate issues that we wanted to draw people's attention to was flooding and street cleaning and storm drains. Like the problem being that with the lack of alternate side, with the fall coming, leaves are gonna fall. There's a lot of trash built up because cars aren't being moved regularly, some are abandoned. And that's building up in the storm drains with the fall, with the leaves falling, and could result in a lot of flooding as climate change happens. And we've seen that already. People in our in the board meeting, we had more than 10 people come. We had a really nice turnout. So that was helpful. I think a lot of people that were there were not on the committee, on the environmental committee. We also discussed the 311 mapping, like how we're all able to look at the 311. There's a map feature that you can look at and you could see what the complaints are in our district and see how that would relate to our committee. We talked about gardening, trees, like we would like to have a page that we have our mission statement on, what we're working on, as well as links to help the community, like for related to say composting, getting a tree planted, things that are related to the environment. And as well as we're hoping to get some type of green, what is it called? Sorry. Like a green market. We want a green market, more than one green market in our neighborhood, as well as more gardens. We're looking to create more green space in our neighborhood for our community members to enjoy. There seems to be a lack of that. And with the dearth of, with associated closing, we would like to find a place to have some green markets so people are able to find fresh vegetables and fruits. So that's about it. That's what we're working on, and that's what we discussed. So any questions?
Okay, are there any questions for the Environmental Protection Committee?
I just want to say that it sounds super ambitious and awesome, and I love it, and go ahead and tackle it. And I'm sure Nicholas and the Parks Committee could also be helpful in some regard, but the rest of us are here for you. Good luck.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the Environmental Protection Committee? All right, seeing none, I just want to echo Primo's comments. I attended the meeting, fantastic energy, fantastic ideas, and exactly that, be ambitious. We'll see how, just be ambitious and see how much you can get. Some of the stuff may be more long-term, but I absolutely encourage you to think big with respect to that, and it's for all the committees. But thank you very much for being present this evening and providing that report.
Oh, one more thing is we also want to encourage any future developments that come into our area. We felt like there's not enough emphasis on people, well, I guess developers creating green, like solar roofs and that type of thing. We really want to focus on making a difference in CB9 with our future. So does that make sense?
Excellent point. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
It was an excellent point, and we'll definitely be working together. I mean, in terms of that conversation, how do we make that happen? And also exploring to see what things are in place already as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Let me see, Carmen, I know you've been there for a minute. Do you have a report for transportation?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Actually, some of you, this is the first time I'm seeing you since the summer, so I hope you all had a great summer. But the Transportation Committee, we met. Our agenda kind of changed suddenly because DOT and CDC, the representatives could not attend DOT because they had a conflict, and CDC apparently moving forward, they're only going to be giving updates at the district service cabinet meetings. But we had a good meeting in the sense that we had some constituents come onto the meeting and discuss their issues and concerns, things that they're facing on their block, and we were able to help them somewhat or alleviate their concerns that they're not being listened to or that nobody's willing to help. We had constituents from Lefferts between Washington and Bedford who have been dealing with their request for speed hump for quite a long time. And it seems that DOT has been giving contradictory responses to the constituent. They told one that it was turned down, and apparently they told the other that it's approved and it's reportedly pending action by CB9, which was a surprise to us because all the conversation we've had about that speed hump on that street have always been, we always been told that it was being denied for one reason or another, but the constituent did have correspondence from the borough hall, not the borough hall, the deputy borough commissioner confirming that they did approve it. So we are kind of waiting confirmation that they are indeed only waiting to get our support letter to install those speed humps. So we're working on that. One thing that I did notice, and not because I was speeding, but they now have a speed camera on Lefferts between Bedford and Washington. It's like closer to Bedford. So I guess somehow they realized that there is actually speeding on that block, which is why, I was kind of like shocked that they put a speed camera when they've been refusing to install speed humps for almost 10 years already. But anyway, that's something that should somehow make the residents there feel better. And the city should be making quite a bit of money because a lot of people are not going to notice those speed cameras until that flash goes off. So again, we're working with those constituents. There's also the issue with the alleyway on New York. What is it, between Maple and I guess it's East New York Avenue. But anyway, we're trying to get them no parking signs because people tend to extend their parking over the entrance of the alleyway. So the sanitation truck has a hard time making that turn to go into the alley and pick up the garbage for those residents. I believe they say there's something like 30 homes that are affected. And sometimes they have garbage pile up there because the sanitation department cannot get through. We did refer it to DOT. DOT sent it on to their engineering department to go out and inspect to determine if the no parking signs are the best option or if there's some kind of other measures that they need to take to prevent that situation from continuing to help out those constituents. We also dealt with the issue of the bus stop on Empire, Nostrum between Empire and Sterling Street. The SBS bus stop, that platform, that extension, there seems to be an issue with the maintenance and discrepancy, whether it's MTA or transportation. They're going back and forth. Dante did communicate with the sanitation department, and I believe they came out and cleaned it, but suggest that outreach be done to MTA because apparently it is within their jurisdiction, which he did. Thank you, Dante. So that situation is being worked on. So the constituents were very grateful to know that Community Board 9 is concerned and is actually working on their behalf to alleviate their concerns. And I encourage them to continue to attend the meetings so that they can stay abreast of the situation And so it was quite a good meeting despite not having the agency representative. We are hoping to, I believe Diana is coming on in November to do a presentation on the Washington Avenue Capital Project. So hopefully she will attend the November meeting and do that presentation, because we'll be interested to see what they plan there. And I see Felice, so I know that she'll also be interested in knowing what plan DOT has for Washington Avenue. First of all, excuse me for not being on camera, but I'm in my office and there's people going back and forth. I don't like to show people on camera without their permission. So that's why my camera is so, because I'm still in my office. But anyway, so I mean, we're moving along. I do want to touch on something with the Parks Committee, because there seems to be the Ocean Avenue reconstruction project and the bike lanes. There seems to be a Parks Department capital project and not a DOT project, according to what Diana said. So I'm going to send an email to Nicholas, and maybe when they have their Parks Committee, he can have somebody from Parks Department come and talk about the Ocean Avenue reconstruction project. That's supposedly a capital project for Parks Department and not DOT. So I will share that email with you so you can follow up. And we might have to maybe do a combined meeting to get clarity on that project.
Absolutely agree. I'll be looking for the email.
Okay. So that's it for me. And we are they were tasked, my committee was tasked with coming up with suggestions and idea for the need assessment for the transportation portion of the need assessment. So I've gotten some suggestions from Paco, and I haven't heard from the others, but I'm going to send another email reminding them. And talking about members, thanks for returning my old members. You know, I have my community members are very dedicated members. They come to all of the meetings and they are always willing to work. And I hope that the new board members that are on the committee will show up to our next meeting. They haven't shown up yet, but I will inform the chairman if the absence continue, so that you know, whatever action needs to be taken. But I'm grateful to have my old members back. Thank you. And otherwise, there would be just me at the meeting and the constituents. So that's the end of my report.
Well, if I may interject, I have to get a listing of your meetings, because you know I don't miss those meetings. And yes, I am coming to the next meeting to find out what's going on for Washington Avenue.
Great.
But you still have me.
Okay, great. So happy to have you, Felice. Happy to have you. Okay, thank you.
Yes, my dear. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the report. We will take a couple of questions for the transportation chair. Warren, I do see your hand. If there's anyone else, please raise your hand so we can make sure we recognize you as well. Warren, go ahead, you have the floor. I think you're on mute, Warren. Nope, still on mute.
Nope.
You're still on mute. Although I kind of prefer you this way.
I don't think he's on mute. I think it's something.
His headphones are just not working. Your headphones are just not working, Warren. You got to take your headphones out.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, we'll come right back to you. Fran has a hand up, and we'll come right back. So while you work on your Fran,
I just wanted to say thanks to Carmen, music to my ears, and don't take a test to that. We just had dialogue concerning those speed bumps, because it's quite a while with the application on it, and Carmen is so right that it brought us back to us that it was not approved. So I so happy because persons, whenever they get to Rogers, going down to Washington, they would be trying to beat the lights from Bedford to Washington. And we have had several accidents down there, and about 8 or 10 cars has been damaged between Bedford and Washington. So I am so happy and looking forward to them scheduling. I know the persons on the block between Bedford and Washington, they'll be starting. Very happy. So thank you so much, Carmen, for the news.
Exactly. And just as a quick note, I did see a camera on Bedford between Montgomery and Sullivan. So welcome.
Well, I hope we can get a camera here on Montgomery and Washington, because they speed from Empire all the way up to Crown to pass that light. So you know it's a speedway.
Yeah, and you know, and thanks for saying that, Felice. On a serious note, though, because I know that originally they had given us a lot of pushback with the speed cameras, but I've noticed a proliferation of them. So, you know, I'm not sure if this is something you could bring back, Carmen, if you can find out what is it. Is it something DOT is doing? Is it something that's been appropriated by the council, or what's pushing that? Because then we might have suggestions, or we should be pushing for that one on Washington, because we've been looking for that one for a long time as well.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So we'll find out. I know normally they say it's a state funding issue.
Right, but they've been popping up, so you know,
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to how that's being done. Warren, are you still there?
I
Did you still have your
appreciate
question
that.
for? Absolutely. Warren, oh, okay, good. Did you have a question for transportation?
Yeah, I have more of a statement. I'm very upset that DOT is not coming to the transportation meetings. And I really find that objectionable. DOT is a central source of information. And
It's
I
not
know from
DOT, Warren. It's not DOT. It's DDC.
what, DEC?
DDC, Department of Design and Construction.
Design
So
construction.
DOT is going to be there?
That's the Empire Washington Triangle Reconstruction Project. Alexandra Gurgis, she said her agency decided that.
DOT.
Huh?
And these people should be at our meetings.
No,
That's
DOT just had a conflict. DDC, her supervisor informs her that moving forward, any kind of updates that on any project that they are involved in will be giving at the district service cabinet meeting. Not
Right.
DOT.
No,
DDC.
I got that. First of all, never mind about DOT. Okay, so I'm glad to hear that. But the other part is that DEC, especially with the projects that are going on, they should be attending our meetings. And I really implore Dante to speak to them, so we're getting the information firsthand. I mean, the Transportation Committee is a great committee. It's very dynamic, it's very interactive. And I think we need all the information we can get, especially noting the changes that are going on with our modes of transportation. So I just find that lacking. Thank you.
Thank you,
I need
Warren.
to raise my hand. I want to raise my hand to ask you a question, Carmen. I see someone else raised their hand.
Yes.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, you recognize. That'll be the last question, that we do have to move on, but go ahead, please.
Okay, so I hope this is appropriate time to ask. Do you know what they plan to do on Washington Avenue? Or you don't have any idea?
No, I have not seen any information on the capital project, which is why Diana said that she would like to present it at the next meeting. So at the November meeting, I mean, I'm sure, and I'm gonna tell you that I have not gone into a DOT website, but I'm sure it's on DOT website, because all of these projects, if you search there for Washington Avenue, I'm sure there's some background information on what's going on I have not actually gone to the website and looked it up. I will tomorrow to see if I find anything, but normally everything that they're working on is it can be found on the website.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much, Carmen, for your report. That's, oh, I'm sorry, Warren, do you have a report for economic development?
Yes, I do. We had our meeting, I think last night or the night before. And basically, what we're trying to do is develop a way to help our local merchants. The one suggestion I had was to do a pop-up shop, going back to the old shop local, and do a pop-up shop on a major artery. Unfortunately, we couldn't take a vote on it because of a lack of attendance. So my thinking cap is on, and we're going to see what we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. And I definitely noting the attendance, the common thread attendance again. So at this point, are there any questions for the Economic Development Chair? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay, well, listen, but otherwise, thank you very much. Looking forward to a lot of great things coming out of economic development as well. All right, in terms of reports, I see two more chairs on. I see, well, first, let me just recognize Melanie Lewis. Melanie is joining us. She has just recently been appointed as the chair of the Education and Library Committee. They have not met this month, but they're going to be coming on strong for next month. But Melanie, I want to thank you. I want to welcome you to the Executive Committee. We're looking forward to working with you and looking forward to great things coming out of your committee. Did you have any comments you wanted to say very briefly, or? She's a woman of few words. Okay, there we go. And then last but definitely not least, we have our Chair of Health and Social Services, Francisca Leopold. Fran, I know that the committee is meeting this week, actually. Did you have any any comments you want to share briefly with the exec, or you'll be giving a report after your meeting?
I just want to just touch on our successful wellness fair that was held on October 2nd. And as the chair, good night, everyone. And as the chair just mentioned, that our meeting date is the first Thursday of every month. But this month we did not meet. I had to travel. So we'll be meeting on Thursday at the same time. And henceforth from November, we'll resume back to our regular meeting time, first Thursday of every month at 7. Community Board with Health and Social Services, we had our wellness fair on October 2nd, and it was well attended by our community members. We had well over 15 community partners there with us. But I think one of the partners who were there that I was really pleased with was the vaccine van. And I have to thank Warren for making that happen. And persons who were lining up, they were going in to get their vaccination. So I was very happy about that. We had, I do want to publicly thank Karen Crawford and Miss Love, Dr. Love, for the help in getting food so that we can give out food out in the community. Our board members, I want to say thank you for Chair Baptiste, Dante, our DM, Mia, Khalib, Melissa. Without you guys, I would not have done it. Mr. Almanor and other members in the community who came on, and then we made it happen. So as I said, we had over 15 community partners who came out, and it was a success, and I'm looking forward. And already persons have asked me if it will be an annual thing. So really, we want to take it to other parts of our community, and having word with Kings County, they really want to play a major role when we do it the next time. This time they came into the table, but they want to be, a true partner in organizing it. So I'm looking forward to it, and I just want to say thank you. It's a success for the first time. And as Mr. Almona said, in 3 weeks, we were able to pull it off. And I'm sure with better planning and having more time, it will be even such a better success. So thank you guys again. And it was a pleasure. It was such a pleasure working with you. And did I call Warren's name?
No, and I'm a little disappointed.
I left your name out deliberately.
I probably. So while I'm speaking, before the questions, I just want to thank Francesca. This was a really positive, successful event, and everybody was on full alert here, from Dante, Mia, Khalib to the board members, and it was just terrific. And the most notable thing is that we had 250 to 300 people coming to the fair, at least signing up. So I just want to thank everyone, and especially Francisca, because this is one of the best events I've seen in Crown Heights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. And thank you so much for your help and your input.
You're welcome. And by the way, Fred was in charge of directing traffic. He did an excellent job. So thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Burke. Police, Ms. Robertson, I see your hand is up.
I
You have a question
had to
for?
crack up. What? I just needed to laugh at the fact that you were directing traffic. But yes, that was a success, Francesca. I had so many people call me for that affair, and I sent them over to you. Okay. So I was wrapped up in other things, in union stuff, but next time, hopefully I can make it. Okay. Because I was told already it was a success, and they were calling me for it. So kudos to everyone.
Oh, don't worry about missing it. Fran said she's going to do 3 or 4 more of these things in the next couple months.
Okay.
No, but I can't help. I mean, to say it was successful event is, it's an understatement. It was really, really phenomenal. Kudos to the chair. Kudos to your entire team. And CB9 made that happen. And it was, I'm just really honored to have been able to be a part of that. And it really kind of, it really sets the bar in terms of what we can do as a board when we really put our minds to it and we put our noses to the grindstone. So thank you so much again for that event. I do see our district manager, and then we're going to move on.
Literally seconds. I think she forgot her name, but I just wanted to acknowledge that Suki was there. So thank you, Suki. Yeah, that's all.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
I just want to add one name. It's Warren. Melissa Severe was there from the beginning, and she was a great help, and I really enjoyed driving with her.
I did call her name, I did call her name. I said, Melissa.
No, you did.
She's a member of me. She's my second hand, so I did call her name.
As well as Mr. Almanor, who was bombarded with names. And it was just terrific how he handled it. So thank you.
You had Carl Cohen's there.
You're welcome,
and a few
Warren.
people from the 71st precinct. I'm sorry, you had Carl Cohen's there and also the 71st precinct there.
Yeah, definitely. The 71st precinct, they showed up. They showed up when they came. They called their people and they set up the table. And we came on and they really supported us. The 71st precinct, the foods we had to pick up, they went down to Canassie to pick up 56 bags of food, bring it back to us, and they had boxes, 50-pound bag carrots and everything. And the officer was like, he was just like the Hulk, and he was just throwing those bags and boxes on his back, and he was just loading them into the church. It was phenomenal. I even forget them. They were supposed to be on top of my list. Yeah, 71st First Precinct, they really, really supported us well. So and they made sure that they went down with the barrier to make sure that the streets were blocked and everything was running smoothly.
Okay.
I
So
just
Fran,
want to
the only
say,
thing I would ask if you could do. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say congratulations. Sounds like an amazing event. And sounds like you brought together so many different people from so many different backgrounds and sectors to pull this off. So huge congrats to you. And, you know, look forward to learning how you pulled off such an amazing event. But thanks for all of your work on this.
Thank you.
Fran, if I could only ask if for next week's meeting, if you could compile a list of all those thank yous, those people we really need to recognize. I want to make sure that we do that publicly. I want to make sure that we really let everyone know that this is a community that came together to help make this happen. So I want to make sure that we're recognizing everyone appropriately in front of everyone, in front of the entire district. So if you could compile that list, we share that with us. And
I already have that list. I already have the list. I'll just forward it to you.
Fantastic.
Oh, can I just
Okay,
squeeze this in? I'm sorry. Could I just squeeze this in? I called Francesca at that time. She was extremely busy. That was the reason why I called you, because they were calling me all over the place to get to you, that affair. Remember I called you, Francesca?
Yes, you did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was the reason.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for reaching out.
You're welcome.
Okay. I believe we got all the chairs, and I hope I didn't miss anything. Did all the chairs, were all the chairs able to give a report for their committees? Okay, I hope so. But again, I'm excited because for all the committees that had their first meetings, these are fantastic points that I'm hearing. I'm sorry?
You probably should. You remember when you called Melanie? She had stepped away. She's back.
Melanie, I'm sorry. Yeah, we called before. I wasn't sure if you didn't want to give a report at the time. So we had announced that you are the new chair of Education and Library. So we had announced that you hadn't met yet because you had just been installed, but that you're going to be meeting next month. But absolutely, if you have any comments you'd like to share with the executive committee at this time, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I apologize for missing that. That's so weird. I was here the whole time. So yeah, I guess when I was muted and video was off, so apologies for that. But thank you so much. I appreciate the appointment so that the Education and Library Committee can continue. I did jot down some things really quickly. So the last meeting of the Education and Library Committee actually took place June 8th. And the meetings previously had been on the second Tuesdays of each month. And so they're now the first Thursdays. So that's a bit of an adjustment. I did speak to, I was starting to speak to some, members that we formerly had, and they're going to be checking their emails to see if they were invited back to the committee. I understand that there was some talk about that tonight and how to move forward. So just, I guess, making sure that, if they hadn't already been appointed back or they didn't hear a word, that that I send them over that application that has been going out. When the committee met in June, there were actually plans that were put in place. So I know this have already been said, but with the starting in October, and now with our meetings being the first Thursday of the month, that means our first meeting would actually be November 4th. And so, there were definitely things that the committee planned to do. For example, there was a spelling bee that was to be advertised in September so that the spelling bee can take place in November. And so, that's something that'll be on the agenda for the Education Committee in November, as well as the book giveaway that was so successful last year. And thanks so much for those of you that came out and supported. And special shout out to Warren on the last book event, just making sure we had the 10 up. I mean, it attracted more people in the community. It was really great. Dimitri is really awesome, working with our partners to make sure that we have the information on the tables and just all the Community Board 9 info. It's a really good look for the Community Board that we're out there and have that event right in front of the Community Board 9 office. The community board, the book giveaway contacts have already reached out to us in reference to, potential fall giveaway. So this committee is ready to go. So I just want to put that out there. And so our last book giveaways were in the spring and the summer. So, we'll be in contact with that contact to make sure that we can move forward. I understand that there was a conversation about books that we're still in the office. I'm not sure what the last word was on that, but I'm thinking, I'm sure those books are probably still there, so we'll be able to utilize them for the community in the next book fair. In addition, the community had, the board had already spoke about making sure we have representation from the specialized high school admissions test diversity team. We had them to speak last, when we were in session last time, and they spoke about September being a good time to be able to roll out information to the community. But I'm going to be inviting them to come and be at the November meeting, because the community needs to know that November is the deadline for parents to be able to have their children to be registered to take that test. So that's something that I would actually like to share during our general board meeting. That registration deadline for the specialized admissions high school test actually takes place November 15th. So that's really important information for our parents. And we hope to be able to have them in the meeting, but if not, at least they'll know about this important deadline. Also, just to be quick, if I could, in reference to the persons, I guess maybe this is a side conversation to you, Fred, or let me know. I already have an idea of, far as those that we would have in place for the committee. I've already spoken to some folks. I don't know if you'll want us to have an election for the vice chair, or if I can elect a vice chair. So that's a question to put out there in relation to that.
My memory is failing me. I believe it's an election. But let me confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And just put the bug in everybody's ear. Jackie Robinson Day. That's something that we did last year, and we anticipate doing it again this year. Acknowledging the fact that we have heroes right in our own community, and we want to highlight Ebbetsfield, and we want to highlight this important day that's recognized all over the country and even other parts of the world. We have these really great things right in our community. And last year we had a trolley. Even though it was raining, we still made it happen. We had a trolley that went around our community, went on the stops where he played, and we shared the history. And so we anticipate doing that even bigger and better this year. So spelling bee, book giveaway, Jackie Robinson Day, those are 3 things that this committee anticipates doing, as well as keeping parents informed. So thank you for the time. And we definitely also wanted to make sure that spelling bee has incentives for the schools so that they can participate. So we'll definitely also be attentive to what we can do in partnership with our elected officials and Community Board 9 to make sure that happens.
Okay, phenomenal. Very brief, only just because I'm keeping on the time. Are there any questions for the education chair? We can only take 1 or 2 questions. Okay, seeing none. Madam Chair, thank you so much for that report, and looking forward to seeing y'all cook. You're going to do so well.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now, I think that concludes our committee check-ins. We are now going to move on in the agenda and go to the district office report, the administrative report. Dante, do you have a report for the executive committee this evening?
Yes, I do. It will be brief. Okay, so I just wanted to note that the district office is open. I had mentioned this at last month's executive board and general board meeting. The district office is open by appointment only. If you know of anyone who is needing assistance, or if you plan on coming by the district office, please shoot us a call or email us so we can schedule you an appointment. Next thing on my list is there had been conversations, I know at least since I started the job as district manager, the conversations have come up about the, I guess, Strauss Fire on Empire Boulevard, which sits rather vacant and charred. I did reach out to FDNY and they did provide me with a final incident report. So if anyone is interested in that incident report, please reach out to the board office, in the subject line, 183 Empire Boulevard fire, whatever it may be. I have that incident report and I have no problem sharing that. So that's that. Next, a budget request letter to the committees will go out in the coming weeks. I know that Fran's committee is about to meet this Thursday. I wanted to give all of the committees an opportunity to at least meet, kind of set a map for what they want to do for this coming year. That will come out in the coming weeks. As I had mentioned before, no matter what one thinks the budget is, I would encourage all committees to dream big, think big. And I will do my due diligence in working to see if we are actually able, as a board office, to financially accommodate whatever the request may be. And if we can't financially accommodate, we're here to assist. We serve at the pleasure of the board. We will reach out to our contacts to see, who knows who, to see if we can get it for free. You never know what happens. So please dream big as you are in preparation throughout the year. And, if you guys are interested in having me come to a meeting to discuss what can and cannot be purchased, I have no problem doing that as well. The next thing is, please inform anyone that your committee members, that they need to submit their recommendations for the district needs statement no later than 4 p.m. this Thursday, October 21st. A final reminder was sent out earlier today, so it should be in all of your inboxes. If you have something, please submit that before 4 p.m. on Thursday. If you did not receive that email, please give us a call tomorrow at the board office and we'll make sure that email gets sent to you. Next week, the Survey of Needs, District Needs hearing will happen right before our general board meeting at 6 p.m. As board members, you all have been pre-registered, so you should have received an email from Zoom, not from the district office, from Zoom, with the credentials to enter that meeting. Anyone who is interested in attending that, they can go online and sign up. They will get the same email, and then they will be able to attend that hearing as well. I just want to make this clear. There are two different links for the hearing and the general board. So before you click on one or the other, just verify that you're using the correct link. The next thing on my list is we have been in the process for a couple months now of creating a new website. I definitely think that this website that we're creating will be more clear and will be a tool for the public to go to and find the information that they need. What I am asking is if you guys have suggestions about what type of information should go on the website, shoot an email to the office, give me a call at the office to discuss the website. I have no problem going through that with you. I want to make sure that this website that we're creating, I'm working on the skeleton of it almost every day with Do It. And so I want to make sure that the information that we have on there is information that folks in our community they're going to use. And so please, if you have any suggestions about what should go on the website, reach out. And then I guess my last point was the point that I had mentioned earlier to Melanie's question about the large expenditures are not going to be happening this time around due to the fact that there's a full-time DM on the payroll. And so our budget shrinks even more. But again, dream big. And I know that there is enough manpower and enough resources around either with the board or with our community partners and other agencies, that we can figure out how to make whatever it is that you're trying to do work. So dream big. Last thing, the last two things I want to bring up, because this was brought up in the general board meeting. If I can recall, I think it was a general board meeting last month. And I had planned to discuss it at the district service cabinet, but DSNY had informed me they were unable to attend. So I did send an email, and I was very fortunate enough to get a quick response back from Superintendent Rice. So I think it was actually Miss Westerdahl who had mentioned that there was a broken glass on Empire Boulevard, I think between Bedford and Rogers. The superintendent did mention that he checks that location quite often. And if they have the resources at that time to be able to sweep it, they do sweep it, but that all comes down to the resources they have when that inquiry comes in. If you continue to see glass or any type of dangerous hazards on Empire Boulevard in that stretch or anywhere in general, don't hesitate to reach out to the board office, and I will forward that complaint inquiry immediately to DSNY. And once I get a response, I will update you on said response. And another topic that was also brought up in the general board was that the trash was being left out overnight at the train station at Utica and Eastern Parkway. And then that plus the congestion of foot traffic was an issue. I'm just reading verbatim the response that I received from Superintendent Rice. He says for Utica and Eastern Parkway, he believes that most of the trash is left on the island, which falls under the Parks Department, and the MTA puts bags out that they collect on their own. So you might see a lot of excessive trash. So you have the businesses plus the MTA putting out trash. If the condition is any different, please let me know so I can inform him that maybe it's not the MTA putting out trash, maybe it's commercial businesses or even residential properties that are putting out the trash. If anyone sees this happening or has evidence that this is happening, please let me know so I can let Superintendent Rice know at DSNY. Yeah, so that was the updates that I have for those two things that had come up during the general board meeting last month. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Dante. Are there any questions we can entertain a couple of questions for the district manager. Are there any questions?
I got a quick one.
I have a question. Okay, go ahead.
Hold on one second. Hold on. If we can raise hands, I see Ms. Westerdahl. Primo, was that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, and I also see Felice Robertson, and we're going to close on Warren Burke. Okay, so we're going to have Westerdahl, we're going to have Robertson, Primo, and closing on Warren. Go ahead, Ms. Westerdahl.
I just want to say that the glass isn't just like random glass, it's huge chunks of glass. And also the covering that used to be over the windows is collapsed since the fire. And I don't know if anybody has been over there to look. I recommend going over there and look. It's a lot, and it's been there for months. So this isn't just like somebody broke a window or a bottle. This is a lot of glass. Did you go over there and look, Dante?
I have actually walked it twice in the past 2 weeks.
So do you saw how much glass is there?
Yeah, there's glass and there's trash alike. But yes, there is a lot, and it is a concern. And it is on DSNY's radar.
And the pigeon feces as well. I have lots of photos that I'll gladly send to you. I just don't know why it's taking so long to clean that up. There's, it's really bad.
Just to share, I also had a conversation with the district manager as well. And I think some of it is because of that whole situation with the Strauss fire. I'm not sure what, if there were investigations going on or anything else. But at this point, it's time. They need to do something with it. So I think Dante had agreed he's going to reach out to the Department of Buildings and any other related agencies to see what can get done about cleaning up that area. Something just has to get done. They can't just leave a charred hole out there. They need to do something. I'm sorry, Dante, I cut you off. Was there anything else you want to add on that?
No, I don't know off the top of my head which agency would have the responsibility of cleaning up the pigeon. Yes. But I don't have a problem reaching out to a couple of agencies to see exactly what can be done with that.
Well, there's a direct report that you can fill out that I filled out for the pigeon. You know, it's just like one thing on top of another. The pigeons really mean the less, but that flock of pigeons probably started off at 10, and I swear it's at least over 100 now. So, you know, and they're really a nuisance, and they're a health hazard.
Yeah, as a suggestion, and I think you said the key word, it's a health issue as well. So maybe if we reach out to DOHMH, we can see if there's anything they can do. If it's a matter of ticketing the owners, where it's like, listen, it's a health hazard at this point, and you know, the property owner probably needs to take care of something. But there'll be a couple of things that, you know, we'll talk. Dante and I will talk offline, and we'll see what we can come up with in terms of getting somebody to address this. You know, we need to, but it does need to be addressed. I agree with you.
And if you have a service request number, or if you send anything to the agency and they actually responded, send it over to the board office just so I have that as reference.
Well, every time I report it, it stays open for a long time, then it just suddenly closes. I've told you this before, but it's just like, come on already, you know?
But if you have any numbers, provide that to Dante so we can follow up as well.
All right, I'll try. You know, that 3 mapping service, you could find them right there easily if you really want to look. Just fill out, do the scroll down where the pigeon is in your district, and they'll all pop up. I'm probably the only one in that entire district that complains about pigeons, but okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Robertson. Elise, you still there? Oh, did we lose her?
I don't see her.
Oh, I think we might have just lost her. All right, if she pops back up, we'll try and get her. Primo.
Yeah, Dante, I just want to say, like, great work on following up on everything. It's clear that, like, you're listening and taking action, and I know that it is not easy to navigate city agencies, but I think that it's really valuable. And the last thing I'll add is, like, this is great information for the executive committee, but I think it's even better served at the general board meeting. So I just would encourage you to regurgitate the same information at the general board meeting. That's it. Thanks for your work.
Appreciate it, Primo. Don't get a lot of compliments in this job.
Yeah, don't get used to it now. Mr. Burke.
Well, based on the last statement, I have my violin out for Dante. But a point I have 2 points. One point is that we are, for the first time, and I've been on this board for a while through a number of chairs and not district managers, of really approaching things that are essential for our community. So I've seen significant progress in terms of what Dante is doing. And at this point, I'm a true supporter. All right. The second thing is, Dante, I have a suggestion. If you could send all the chairs what the board is capable of paying for and not paying for, I think that's important. And then it's up to the individual committees to put on their thinking hats of how they're going to raise the money they need. Thank you.
Agreed. Fair point. Yeah, I will more than likely just create a one-pager. Since I go to meetings a lot and I'm spread thin, that will probably be easiest for me. So duly noted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Dante, Warren, were you speaking of the budget
Correct.
request? Right.
Correct.
This is
In
what
other
I was
words,
going to ask about.
There's only X, Y, and Z the community board can pay for under the New York City guidelines, and it's pretty sparse. So the next thing is, and this is something that I always did on my earlier years, is that if I had something to achieve, I also thought about how can I raise the money. And we have a 501 vehicle that's been around for like 20 years that we can put the money through and then spend it. And it's also tax deductible to whoever donates. In addition to that, if you don't think of anything to raise, to raise money, let us know and we'll see what we can do. Because so far we have not refused any request for funding, and it's all been private.
Okay, so you touched on a little bit of what I wanted to know, because this is my first time doing this statement of community district needs and community board budget requests. And in reading some of this, I see that they need space for to mitigate cultural sensitivity training. They need space for NYPD to park their cars. You're speaking of housing. So I wanted to go over with you, Dante, how does this process, how does it go? This is my first time doing this. And I underline and see a lot of things that's needed. So I don't know how this goes.
Okay, well, one, I would say, think about the things that you see throughout the district. If you feel like they would be a positive benefit to the community, I would recommend that you submit that through the Google Doc that was sent to you, so we have that in record. The next thing that happens is on Tuesday, right before our general board meeting, I will essentially have a draft of all of the information that was collected, plus some of the information that rolled over from last year. So as you can imagine, agencies don't always grant our requests. And so those things run over year to year, just as important. And so during the hearing, the board members, members of the public will be able to have those discussions. And then once the board finalizes exactly what it believes its needs are in Community District 9, I will write up a lengthy report and I will submit it to the Department of City Planning.
Now, would that include the speed camera that I have been requesting for centuries, or I should say a decade?
So this is something that I would recommend that you also put in your in the Google Doc for the district needs statement. And if you're able to attend the hearing next Tuesday, I would suggest you to bring that point up to the full board. And if you happen to have any evidence in terms of like requests that you've submitted and any information or correspondence that you've received from the respective agencies, have that information readily available. It sounds like from this conversation that speed cameras are popping up. And so maybe this is an opportunity where this is something that, this might be something that, we're able to advocate for and actually have granted. And so, I would recommend, definitely put that in the report. And, it's also extremely important to have it on the record. You mentioned that this is your first time. It's important to have this on the record. So, if it wasn't in the district needs statement last year, it's in there now. And we have a living document that says that this is what Community Board 9 feels is in the best interest of its community. And so that's a really powerful tool that we can use as we advocate for services in CB9.
Excellent. This would save the people that have gotten hit, and I believe someone had gotten killed here, and also bring money to the city. I mean, my God,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the comments. All right, so we're going to move on in the agenda. The next would be the chairman check-in. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief with respect to things going on, but but I think that just based on all the reports and the conversations and from the district office, you see there's a lot going on in this district. So I just really want to thank all the chairs. I want to thank all the committees. I want to thank our district office team, Dante, Mia, Khalid, for everything you do. And I think these reports really speak to the amount of work that gets done, the needs that we're addressing in the community. But with respect to some things I just want to highlight very quickly. One, it bears worth repeating with respect to our wellness fair that was done on 10/2. Phenomenal event. I think the numbers were eye-popping in terms of the people we were able to service, between the quality and the variety of the vendors that were there. Again, I just want to raise my hat to the event chair, Francisca Leopold, and her committee and her working team, and all the participants and all those people who supported it. It was phenomenal, and I'm really looking forward to even more like that. That's why I stress dream big. If we had talked about this a couple of months ago, we would have said this seems really ambitious. I don't know if we can do it and everything else. But you know, we kept at it. There were times where there were gaps in the resources. We didn't see how it was going to get done, but it got done. So I just, you know, recommend that we think big as a board and we push and we see what we can get done. And it'll be amazing to see exactly how far we can stretch ourselves and what we can get accomplished for this district. I think in terms of, and I really want to push this as well. The loss of the Associated Supermarket is something that we have definitely heard a lot about in our district. And I think I made a comment about this last month where we understand there's nothing we can do to replace, you know, that supermarket. You know, for many was, you know, it provided accessibility. We can argue about the price points, but for some, that's what was affordable for them as opposed to some other higher end supermarket. And it was right on Nostrand where, you know, in the middle of our district. So the loss of that is something we can't replace. But we've already had conversations and we're continuing to have conversations about how do we mitigate some of the impacts. So one of the things that I'm happy to say is that we've partnered with the Borough President's Office, Majority Leader Cumbo, Senator Myrie, along with Assembly Member Richardson. So what we're doing is we've actually been able to get a farm stand. So one of the ways we're trying to mitigate it is to actually bring fresh produce into the district. So beginning this Friday, the 22nd, and happening on every Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., there's going to be a farm stand that is available right in front of the old Associated site. So our residents don't have to walk somewhere out of the district or some, you know, really, really out of the way. They can go right there, have access to fresh produce. So right now we're looking at that through October. We're also looking at ways we can expand the program. So if we need to bring it indoors over the winter, or if there are other aspects or facets we want to add to it as well. But this is something, it's the first step in terms of trying to address an issue that is really, really important in our district. And I want to thank all I want to thank the first vice chair. I want to thank our the first and second vice chairs for their support, for their coming to meetings, our district office team for weighing in as well, for all those who provided feedback. And again, this is the first step, but I think it's an important first step. And I'm really proud that our board was able to, was considered a partner in this. And I think I wanted to definitely address the fact that I think that, it was a rough start for us this year between trying to figure out logistically how we were going to be meeting and all the other things. So there were some delays with regards to standing up the committees. I'm glad to say that all the committees are stood up at this point. Not all have met, but they're being stood up, and everyone will have met by next month. So I want to thank all those committees that have met and that will be meeting coming up shortly. The schedules will be published on the community board website, and we're looking forward to the community being able to participate in terms of building the vision and executing as well. A couple of notes with regards to committees. One committee that is going to be stood up very shortly as well is the nominations committee. So there are a few members that we are reaching out to in terms of getting that done, but we do need to have a nominations committee that is empaneled to elect a new secretary. Again, our secretary, Alejandra Caraballo, our former executive secretary, has gone on for bigger and better things. She is missed, but we need to fill the position. So we are looking at having the election per the bylaws. So that process is beginning. I would ask if anybody's interested in running, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or if you are interested in serving on the committee, the nominations committee as well. I think the other thing, I think just going back again, I think one of the common threads we heard from all the committees as well is with respect to attendance. I think we had a good number of people at the last general board meeting, but there was also a sizable amount of people who were absent. And I think that needs to change. So that is something we take very seriously. We want to respect the time of all those members who are making the sacrifices to be here and to carry on the work of the board. So we are going to be addressing attendance. We are monitoring it now. We are going to be addressing issues early. This is not going to drag on. For those chairs who had issues, we apologize, but we are going to work swiftly to start to address that. And if we do see that there are issues where people are not attending, we are going to act on that very quickly as well. I understand for every time you have people on the board on the committees who don't show, that affects everyone else who made the commitment and is honoring their commitment. And we're going to make sure we address those things. The other thing that I want to introduce now, and it'll be something for further discussion, is from conversations with other boards. One of the things that has been established in a number of other boards in Brooklyn is a Veterans Affairs Committee. It's something that is near and dear to my heart as well, being a veteran. Just this past week, the district manager and I were able to go and see a 99-year-old World War II veteran finally get his Purple Heart. It was an honor well deserved. He received a congressional proclamation. So it was great to see him honored. But when you think about the situation of all the years where he was denied benefits, access to certain things he would have had automatically if he had been, been given the Purple Heart, VA benefits or anything else. We were fortunate that he was able to get recognized, even though it's belated. But we have a lot of other members of our community who are going through those same very issues. So that is something that we are I'm interested in looking into in terms of establishing that as a standing committee for CB9. So we're doing some more investigation. There'll be additional conversations, and I'll be working with the executive committee in terms of how we stand that up. Lastly, with regards to chairs, so the committees are stood up. The only two committees that do not have chairs that have been announced yet are for housing and ULURP. Those will be determined, but those committees will be meeting for next month. I will be appointing temporary chairs for those, and we will make announcements with respect to who are going to be the permanent chairs for those committees as soon as possible. Lastly, I think our district manager already touched on it. I just want to reiterate the point. The statement of needs hearing is scheduled for next week at 6 p.m. It's going to be immediately before our board meeting. We need to make sure that we're there on time. We need to make sure that we're efficient because we have to close that meeting in order to be able to start our board meeting next week. I think there are a lot of people have been putting time, energy, and thought into what we want to announce as the priorities for our district. I echo again that we need to make sure that the suggestions are in by Thursday so that the district office team has an opportunity to process and put everything together so that way we can have something tangible, that people can look at as we actually vote on the statement of needs for the district. I will conclude my remarks at this point. If there are any additional items, I will make sure I include them as part of my chairman's report for the October meeting. I will entertain any questions if there are any questions from the exec committee or any members present today.
Dante's statement. If anyone wants the flyer for the farm stand, please reach out to the board office and I'll make sure it's sent to you. Thanks.
Hi, it's Warren. I just want to reiterate about the farm stand. This is so important to our community, and it took a lot of work to get there. In addition, there'll be a vaccination and a testing and trace van there. But please spread this around as much as you can. There'll be an email blast tomorrow because we need to support it. If we don't support it, it will disappear. So let's take advantage. This is a huge accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Warren. Are there any other questions?
Yes, in reference to the farm stand, how will that run? And forgive me if I missed it. I guess I'm just wondering, will it run as, what do you call those? Oh goodness, I forget the name, but you know how they're over there by the, near the library. What do you call that? It's
Yep.
Like,
yeah, by ground, it's a fresh produce market. It's a fresh produce market and it's gonna be right there.
I just want to add to this. This farm stand is being run by Grow New York City, and it's the same people who do the green markets. The reason we're having a farm stand is because of the shortness of time. But essentially, this is the same people who run all the green markets in New York City, and it's very how should I say? There's a lot of validity there. And everybody's food stamps, SNAP, WIC, as well as cash will be accepted. And with the SNAP and the food stamps, I think there's a program underway that you can double your money when you buy it at the farm stand. So thank you.
The program is already in existence. You get $2 health buck for every $1 of food stamp that you spend.
Correct.
Could you,
That is correct.
can I ask, is it just one farmer that's coming with a stand? Do you know, or is it more?
Yeah, I can answer that. What happens is that it's a farm stand that Grow New York Fresh is doing. What they do is they purchase the produce from various vendors, and then they bring it to the farm stand. So while I haven't seen it, you should have a full selection of what's available based on what's in season, you know, at this point in time.
So starting this Friday?
Yes.
Correct.
And just for the double your money thing, I know about that. It's like, it's only up to $20. So you can double your money for $20 once a day at any Grow New York. You go and you turn in your, you have your card, and then you get like for every $1 up to 10. So you have $20 total to spend. That's how much they double, if that makes sense. And you go to one stand and they give you the coupon, little coins, and when the children get the cards for the food cards, I don't know if anybody knows about that, but every student in New York would have gotten this card with some money on it, like I think up to $400. Those can be used there as well to exchange for the Grow New York money. So I live right up the street, so I'm definitely going to go there on Friday and check it out. I'm looking forward to it because it will be right at the end of Sullivan. So I didn't catch the hours, by the way.
It's
From 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
All right, and I'd be interested in getting, a flyer to put up for my neighbors and build the excitement as well. I'm really hopeful for this market. That's really great
You'll be
news.
getting the flyer tomorrow. And you brought up a great point that I certainly didn't know about the students. So where the powers that be at PS 61 are very aware of this, but we have to do it to other students, to other schools. So thank you for that.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank everyone. So now we're going to go into the next item for business. We're going to set the agenda for the general board meeting. These are the proposed items as far as I understand. So we are going to open the public session. I'm going to have the rules of conduct. Welcome rules of conduct. Pardon me, I'm just taking notes as we go along. Then we are going to, question. Dante, do we have any presentations scheduled for the meeting?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Then we're going to go into SLA applications.
Now we're going to trigger your brain to say how much your lungs are.
I'm sorry.
And that
Was that, I'm sorry, that was for?
Yes, I
okay.
wanted to, I think I made the point before in terms of presentation. The Major Owens Wellness Center did not show about our park and recreation meeting. I wanted to see if I could do them for the general board meeting.
Okay, did you want to extend an invitation, or they said they
Yeah, I would like
wanted
to re-extend the invitation to them to present whatever they have, because we're hoping they do a presentation to us and then we'll report to at the general meeting. But they did not make it for that. They never called us and let us know what happened.
It probably, actually, I think your suggestion is very timely as well, because I do believe the ribbon cutting for the Major Owens Center is the day after our meeting, the 27th. So it might be good for them to come and present. So,
yes,
so Dante, can we reach out to them? Dante, we'll reach out to them. We'll add them.
Professor, did you pause the video since it's after 9?
I didn't hear that last. Could you repeat that?
Hello? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that. But we will extend the invitation to Major Owens to see if they're able to come and present. Okay, so after that, we have the SLA applications. I believe the public safety chair said that they were the 3. So we will entertain the 3, and the board will have an opportunity to evaluate and see if we are willing to approve or if there are any other steps we want to take. After the SLA applications, we're going to do public commentary. For public commentary, after public commentary, we'll do acknowledgements. And after that, we are going to go into our business session. We'll open with roll call. We're then going to adopt the minutes from last month. After that, we will have committee reports only, and I'll ask the chairs right now. We have it on the agenda for committee reports, but only if you have really urgent pending action. Otherwise, we would just ask. Oh, and I'm sorry, this is something we need to make sure. Please make sure that you have submitted all of your minutes to the district office so we can make sure that they are published as part of the package. We want to make sure it goes out to all the board in a timely fashion. We want to make sure that they are published so the public has an opportunity to review and ask questions as well. But with that being said, us putting it out in advance means you don't have to report at the board meeting, which is going to make our board meetings more efficient, and we'll just be able to go on as opposed to rehashing things that people should have access to. So we're going to have that as an item on the agenda, but again, only brief reports if necessary. Okay, I would ask that from all the chairs. After that, we are going to have the district manager's report. And after that, we will have chairman's report. And then we will go into voting session. In the voting session, we will have the liquor license, the SLA applications. Are there any other voting items we have aside from the SLA applications? I don't believe so. Okay, so we'll make a note of that, SLA applications. After that, we will then go into unfinished business. If there's any unfinished business for the board. After which we will entertain any new business. And then we will adjourn. Okay. Are there any items that are missing from the agenda as proposed? Yeah, Carmen, are you speaking? I thought I saw Carmen. I can't hear.
No, I have nothing to report.
Oh, okay. All right. Melanie, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just, I understand. So going forward, we're gonna have, sorry, I can't step out. Going forward, we're going to have the minutes attached for the community to be able to see each committee's information. But I think it's imperative that we make the community members aware, because just as we know from our regular community board meetings, everyone may not have looked at attached. I know now everybody knows to look at the information prior to the meeting to be prepared for it. But our community members, sometimes they need highlights, you know, to prompt them to make sure that they do look at that information. So I understand that we're to just report, like if it's an action item, like for example, the Shazat, that has a deadline of November 15th. So I would like to make sure the community is aware of that. I don't want them to have to go to an email to open it up to see that the Shazat is, you know, the deadline is November 15th. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we're also reiterating the information to the community.
No, and that's a fair point. And that's a fair point, and absolutely, you know, the chairs of the committees will have an opportunity to do that. But by the same token, it shouldn't be a rereading of the report. So you can have up to a minute and a half just to kind of highlight, you know, these are important deadlines or important milestones that people need to be looking out for to make sure. But again, we need to make sure we're keeping it brief because we do have 10 committees that we need to go through. And we usually typically have a lot of business. So I just want to make sure we set that as the norm in terms of, committee reports at the board meeting.
Oh, I'm in agreement.
you for your
I'm
time.
definitely in agreement. Not reading the entire report, but just highlighting the fact that it's there and,
No, fair point. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Ms. Westerdahl, I see your hand.
Yeah, I would like to see at the meetings, if, I think they have a lot, we could post links in the, so people could go to that. Maybe you want to,
Yeah, I'm sorry, you're cutting in and out.
somebody with the TV play. Could somebody mute? Thank you. I just want to say that I hope chat will be open, because I find that if people are able to post links for things that they want to highlight in chat, anybody who's in the meeting can easily click on that. Say I want to post, like she wants to post the SHSIT, just post the link, post the agenda. So people that aren't asking for the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, post the link to the agenda, post the link to them, whatever we want to put out there, and people can easily see it. It's so nice.
yeah, I definitely agree on that as well. Like I really want, I know this has been a conversation, but I really hope that we can really look to that, because it's a sense of community when we can chat. Like even in this meeting, I wish I could have put some stuff in the chat. It's just more of a sense of community.
It would be very helpful. I agree. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, I'll discuss with the team and we'll see what we'll see what works best in terms of the flow. But I have to say as well, on the one hand, and I just want to make sure that everyone understands the position and why I'm taking it as well. It's a balancing act between, remember, we have 10 committees, we have liquor license applications, we have acknowledgements and news coming from public officials, we have public commentary that's being done, we have presentations that's being done, which means at any given month, our agenda is packed. And while I understand and appreciate the fact that we want to have that, it's a lot going on at one time. And sometimes that also threatens in terms of we're not paying attention to what's in front of us, as opposed to now we're clicking links going to other things that are ancillary. And that's part of why I want us to make sure that we're being better about that, especially if we know if we want to share, that stuff goes to the district office, because the district office puts that out on a weekly basis, can put things out more urgently if needed. And at the same time, if there's anything that's mentioned during the meeting that you want to follow up with, the team has access to it, and we can make sure that all that information is disseminated at one time. So, and I want to make sure we're clear. It's not that that we don't want community, we don't want that, but it's a balancing act in terms of we're also a New York City agency, and we are a board, and we are tasked with making sure we complete an agenda on a monthly basis, and we need people there in focus on what's going on, what's being discussed at that particular time. But these are conversations, and we're constantly trying to see how we refine that, how we do it better. So I definitely appreciate all the feedback that's coming, and we'll see what we can do in terms of making that possible and making, increasing the feel of the community during the board meetings as well. But the other thing is too, I think that one of the things that we do strive for is a lot of that we also push to the committee level, which is the reason why we have the format different, because we want to make sure that there's a more open opportunity for dialogue. And there's more opportunity for topics to be more fully fleshed out at the committee level. But definitely things that we're looking into, and it's a constant conversation between with the district office team in terms of how we best accomplish that balance. Okay, but I do thank you for the comments, and it's definitely something we're thinking about. Are there any other questions or suggestions with regards to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for one of the executive officers at this time to adopt the agenda as stated.
I make a motion to accept.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Melanie. It's only the executive officers. Yes, the executive officers for the for this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Serious and it can.
Okay, I have it moved by Warren Burke. Do I have a second?
Nicholas Almanor, second.
I have a second from Member at Large Nicholas Almanor. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Unless there's any unreadiness, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any objections? Please say nay. Are there any abstentions? At this time, please state your abstention so we can note it for the record. Seeing none, please note for the record, the agenda has been adopted, and that will be the agenda for our meeting on October 26th. Okay. With that being said, that is all. I think we've run through our agenda for the month. Is there any other business that this executive committee needs to look at? Okay. Seeing none, I just want to conclude by saying, once again, thank you to everyone for coming in, for your participation, for your diligence, for your commitment. This is not easy. I know everybody's giving up time. I know, dinner time is way past for a lot of us. But I thank you for your commitment. I thank you for your sacrifice. I thank you for your dedication. And this is what's going to make CB9 go to even higher levels. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved by the member at large. And do I have a second?
I have an objection. I want to continue this.
And that's fine. We'll leave the line open for you, Warren.
Second.
Second by Mr. Warren Burke. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. I hear a majority of the board. We stand adjourned. The time is now 9:18 p.m. Again, everyone, thank you so much. Go back, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next week.
And Fred,
All right.
thank you for
See
your
you next
service.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.